My guest today is Nevash Pillay, who is the GTM leader for Telecom at Databricks. We're going to unpack how data in AI is starting to change what value creation looks like within the telecom industry. Where is the biggest untapped value in telecom today from the investments operators have already been making for years?
I think the biggest untapped value is in the revenue generation, data monetization, which requires the foundation of great customer experiences. So I think in a telecom, if you can now use your data to deliver great customer experiences, you have the foundation to upsell, to cross-sell, and to now also in the B2B space, deliver value across new industries.
What makes it hard to consistently turn network and technology investments into measurable commercial outcomes?
I think what makes it hard is that there's not one network. A telecom normally has a few networks. You find 4G, 5G, some are building 6G, there's a wireline network, there is satellite networks. So there are multiple networks that we are dependent on, and there are multiple data points across each. And I think most telecoms struggle today because the data across the network space is still in silos. And to really deliver experiences at scale and to use the data to guide even monetization, you need to have a more unified view. And I think, we've had many examples when that data is unified, you can now be more predictive and proactive. You can see where issues are emerging. You can start to build machine learning models that help you understand why. You can become far more predictive in when it's going to happen again. And when an issue looks like it's going to land, you could do some triage with AI agents. And if you need a human or a field technician to go out and repair an issue, you can equip them with the right insights so that you know where the issue is, what it relates to. With the right insights, in fact, you can find the best technician to solve that problem who's in that vicinity. And that in itself, when we're talking about organizations that spend over $1 billion a year in a network or upgrading, maintaining their networks, it adds significant value to them. And telecoms, one of the questions one of our customers asked me to solve for at Mobile World Congress last week, and it helped me just simplify. He said, we have 200 million subscribers, and we have 385 different products. And what I really want to do is align each individual subscriber to the best 2 products that can enhance their value. Now, if we're talking about 10 of each, statistically you can do that, but when you have 200 million and you need to do it at scale and you need to do it real time when they call you or when they arrive at your store, it's very different. And I think the network is the same. There are multiple data points. And I think, the more unified you have them, the more intelligence you drive in them, the better equipped you are to really act in the moment, deliver the best value, drive the efficiency in the business, and it's a gift that keeps giving.
Where do data and AI make the biggest difference in helping operators turn those network capabilities into something the business can actually act on?
So data and AI can actually help a telecom across every business function. The revenue generating functions are the ones that have spent a lot of time with us because, they want to help a customer resolve an issue at the first point. So if you call and you have a challenge or you want to move houses, you can have multiple AI agents assisting the contact center operator to understand what services are available at your new residence, when a field tech is available, what they might upsell to you, because you could be in an area where the weather may not be great and they may have a backup service to provide to you. And all these things with data and AI can happen in seconds. You don't have to be on the phone for 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get your issue resolved. And I think data and AI is having a massive impact. Another area in which in the customer side it's impacting is, we have, for example, AT&T, they receive 300,000 calls every single day. And they are now using a small language model to understand not just the key reason for the call, but were those issues actually resolved? How many customers want to leave AT&T during the day because they've called 8 times or 3 times, or they just don't have the trust anymore? And I think with data and AI, again, businesses that they just have so many data points, so many customers, you can pinpoint the challenges very quickly and you can add, the solution. But, the key areas are first point resolution, predicting if a customer is unhappy before they are ready to leave you. So, when typically to predict churn, you get a percentage. So if you predict that there's a 90% chance of you wanting to leave, it's probably too late to save you. But if you get, a customer at 50, 60%, 40%, you have the ability to change their experience and keep them, marketing the right offer to the right customer, network, efficiency, automation, and reducing fraud. They tend to be the key areas where data and AI is impacting telecoms. And, recently from MWC, we spent a lot of time with many CFOs. And what they really like is the ability to talk to their reports in natural language. And not just at the surface, but at that metadata layer, and really get the answers to, what is my revenue forecast? Why is my revenue higher? And, they are some of the things that today telecoms struggle with. I mean, they've been struggling with these things for several years that, data and AI is better positioned to resolve.
I really like your comment there around that if you're at 90%, chances are you're not going to get that customer back or prevent them from leaving. So that's actually good intelligence for you to not even waste time. That use your resources on the ones that you are much more likely to retain, the ones that are truly on the fence, and perhaps you end up having more wins that way.
Totally. And I know we'll talk about lake-based later, but at the end of the day, even when you discover that I or you may be at a 40% or 60% chance of leaving, knowing in that moment what I can do to save you, having the application and the AI agent, specifically and deliberately say, hey, in your case, what we're going to do is bundle up, a wireless package for all your family members. And in my case, I need a better international roaming package. And being able to identify that in the moment, because knowing the customer's going is one thing, but saving them is the key. And knowing what to give them at that point so that you have customer lifetime value is an area where data and AI is simply transformational. And we have seen customers who have reduced churn by 40%. Now, you can imagine, if you have 100 million subscribers, and typically you lose about 8% a year, you probably gain 8% a year from the others. But if you can, at a net level, improve overall by 40%, the magnitude on your bottom line and your EBITDA and your revenue is significant.
How are the stronger operators using applications differently to connect network insight with decisions in sales, service, and customer experience?
Great question. So the first thing is, on your way from here to home, an operator can get a very clear indication of how many call drops you may have had. And once they know that you are going to be at risk of leaving. So they can act again to rectify those challenges. So that they retain you as a customer. Another way in which one of our large customers is doing this is they've equipped their field technicians with network and customer insights. So when they arrive at your home, they know what weather impacts you have. They can tell by the size of your house, you may not need one Wi-Fi modem, you may need 3. they can immediately tell, by the number of people in the house, the size of the property, additional services you may need, some extra Netflix services or other services that the telecom can deliver to you, cybersecurity. A big area that we have seen is parents wanting to have access to, children under 10 and what they're doing, to limit the number of hours and which hours of the day they are actually accessing social media or even using the internet or playing games. So, when you have your data and AI working in harmony with your network and customer insights, you can actually deliver much greater value to the customer. And telecoms today that are leading in this space, they are looking at structured and unstructured data, internal data sources and external data sources, because it also matters what your competitors are doing in most areas. And when you bring all of those data points together and it's readily available to the person who is in front of the customer, whether it's a chatbot, a field tech, a contact center agent, a store agent, irrespective, it's exactly the same principle. And so, I have seen firsthand, the upsell that you get from the field techs, the efficiency you're driving in the solutions, and ultimately the impact that it's having on the customer. Because if my telecom knows what I need before I call them, I will have much more loyalty and trust in them. And if they're able to deliver that when they say they can, again, to me, that just takes away any pain from my life.
I could see a use case where you have that person who had all these failed calls. Then the information eventually gets to your operator, and then say they know that they're building some towers nearby or in the near future, and that I wonder if any of them are proactively then messaging those customers and being like, hey, we noticed you had this issue around this area. Please note we are working on building some towers, so we have plans in 2026 to improve the reception. That would be, I feel like, a very, very, very proactive way of creating that positive customer experience from what would otherwise be a very negative one that could eventually prevent that churn.
That is a brilliant idea. So telecoms typically have a lot of network planning. And so what they would know is where the outages are happening, what the outages are. Sometimes you might have a disruption in your service that may have been known. But if you also, again, when you have 100 million subscribers or 200 million subscribers, you tend to see some very clear patterns. And in your network planning and forecasting, because a telecom is always upgrading the network, they're always adding, additional coverage. Or they may partner with another telecom if it's an area they're not actively investing in. So absolutely, a use case that many of our customers have adopted already is using these insights to determine how to make additional network investments. And, they could take it a step further, as you say, and let the customer know ahead of the customer calling. We recognize that on your trip, you may have had these outages. And we have built this into our plan to address it, in the next 3 months, because again, that just gives you that sense of comfort.
Yeah, I mean, just think of how many times, like I personally know that there's been times where I'm like, oh, the service here in this area is very bad. And then you immediately start to think, well, am I going to be in this area a lot? Okay, well, if I am, maybe I need to switch carriers. So I could see a scenario where it's like, hey, I get this message, you guys are planning on building things here in the future. Okay, it's not worth switching to another carrier. So
totally. And you know what? These days you also have satellite.
Yeah.
So being able to seamlessly switch customers across networks is also a thing that AI can do. Or, now, like network slicing is a big revenue opportunity for many telecoms, because if you want an uninterrupted, view of the World Cup soccer,
Mm-hmm.
we have many operators who are now able to sell to you a slice of the network for the duration of the game. And you see, previously, it was difficult to also activate and deactivate, because if you are being charged $10 for, half a day of watching and having a network slice with zero interruption, it may cost more than $10 to activate and deactivate your service with a human. But now with an AI agent, you can also start to do these things far more seamlessly. So again, you've got a better customer experience. You are utilizing your network capacity far more effectively, and you are generating revenue at the same time. And the majority of the telecom use cases are delivering value, not just in one of those areas. It's the customer, it's the revenue, and it's the network efficiency.
How do you think that leading operators are getting better at connecting what happens in the network to what happens commercially with customers and revenue?
So, we've covered a few examples of the effectiveness of that network and revenue and customer in the consumer part of a telecom. So telecoms also have many business customers, and they range across pretty much every industry: banking and finance, retail, manufacturing, healthcare, and because all of them need connectivity and beyond connectivity. And, some ways in which operators are monetizing this further in that space is using the convergence of 5G, IoT, edge compute, and AI to deliver solutions in these industries. So in healthcare, it's better patient care. In manufacturing, there are huge amounts of unstructured data from, just video feeds monitoring operating plants. And so now you can consolidate those technologies to have a solution. And imagine if a telecom having a manufacturing customer and delivering a solution in a factory where you are streaming and batch processing structured and unstructured data. You've got the video cameras. The video camera detects a defect or an anomaly on the manufacturing line, and the AI agent at the edge puts a pause to it. So the impact you can have is huge. There's also in mining a lot of autonomous vehicles, and all of these technologies, the timing of the technologies and the ability to now train your AI agents and have them effective to work at the edge is generating new revenue streams. Because when you actually look at a telecom, consumers like you and I can easily move between multiple operators. There is a good play now to upsell a lot to us because the telecom has some significant data points on us to know what we need next. From a business side, B2B is where many of our customers tell us the next phase of growth is going to come from. And we have seen that across many customers like Frontier. They have grown their B2B space by 20%. And again, it's using the data points, but I think taking it one step further into the enterprise space with the combination of these technologies now gives telecoms the opportunity to deliver solutions across industries where you need that connectivity at the core for those organizations to deliver to their customers.
What will define value creation for telecom leaders for the next few years?
I genuinely believe it's intelligence in the data. I have heard at least 6 CEOs speak last week at Mobile World Congress. And the value will come out of understanding the data, having multiple AI agents take action on the data, and really impact the customer in ways that they need. There was one CEO who described the different data points they have on a customer. And, visibility of who you're reaching, the sites you're accessing, your commute, where you spend most of your time. And with that intelligence, you can anonymize the identity of the individual and package up the data for the customer themselves so you can start to see what works and what doesn't work. Or we have many customers now also monetizing their data by creating data packages and products that you can sell to EV companies so they know where to install the next charging station. Or you could sell it to retail organizations so they know where to locate their next door, or tourism organizations based on traffic, and you've got traffic in motion. So I think telecoms have more data than practically any other industry. And the data intelligence is what's going to drive and influence that next level of growth.
There's a lot of interest around AI chatbots, but most offerings, I think, fall short of being really transformational. So the question then is, how is Databricks' AI Genie being used in telecommunications to produce real business outcomes?
So, as you know, telecoms have lots of customers, lots of data. And some of the common ways in which it's used right now is you've run a marketing campaign and you want to understand, why is it successful in New York City or Manhattan and not as successful in New Jersey? I could ask my AI Genie chatbot that question. And it could be because there's a competitor in New Jersey who's actually just come up with a far more viable, cheaper offer or solution. Another way in which leaders are using this is in telecom. When I led in telco, I would receive a report every morning to tell me, for the business I ran, how many customers churned in, churned out, sometimes what my revenue forecast is based on the activity of my customers and what was sold. And quite often when I would see this, I would have a question or many questions, like, why is the revenue higher today? And typically, I have sat down with many chief data officers in telecom and asked them, go ask your dashboard that question, why is my revenue higher today? And with Databricks AI Genie, it will actually tell you, well, it's higher today because, for example, you won a customer 1 month ago. It's taken a month to port the services. You now have 300 extra subscribers at a price and ARPU of X or Y, and that has delivered this revenue increase. That is far more valuable than saying, because you had a win of a customer. So the intelligence that you have is going back into Unity Catalog, where all your data, sources are. And so the intelligence that you get in simple questions are just incredible. It prevents the need for people spending days finding new reports to deliver to you, by which point you've got another 6 questions. And, particularly in the last 2 weeks, we have seen CFOs particularly interested in Genie, because it gives them perspective on how to forecast more accurately. It gives them insight into what's actually happening in the business. And if there is an error, it tells you that at the same time also, because influencing your revenue outcome or your expenditure position is like your accruals, your provisions, your ins, your churn in, your churn out, the wins you've had, the losses you've had. And so we are now building this in a way where you can understand the impact rather than waiting for 3 days after the close of the month to then try and reconcile it all. And, at that point, you can't influence it either as much as you can when you're on the 6th working day of the month. If you are a CFO of a telecom, you have got multiple inputs of data sources that reflect in your reports. And they update at different points. And sometimes it's just really difficult to get a clear view on how your business is performing during a month. You have all these insights and you've got to reconcile it yourself. But now with a combination of ingesting all those data sources into your lakehouse and having Genie linked directly to your lakehouse, you have the ability to have more confidence and trust in your data and the ability to now, manage your business from the front.
Trust goes a long way. Explainability goes a long way.
Totally.
Thank you so very much for your time, Nevash. I really appreciate you coming into the New York City office of Databricks and talking to me about these things for your customers. So for the customers that might be watching this, highly encourage you to check out Lakebase, AI Genie, and Agent Bricks from Databricks. Good stuff.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. Thank you so very
you.
much.